Now I'll tell you my story. I'll tell you about when I was 10 years old and something happened that changed my life forever. It is the reason I am here today talking to you. When I was a little girl, I knew very little about slavery except that as Quakers we didn't like it. My papa was a farmer and both he and my mama worked hard. My aunt and uncle lived close by and Papa and Uncle William helped each other farm. I played with my cousins and Mama and Aunt Elizabeth schooled us at home. We got in the buggy only on Sundays to go to Quaker meeting. I had never seen a slave. But one night, the grown-ups were talking very loudly. And for the first time ever, I heard anger in Papa's voice. I heard the words fugitive and runaway and bounty hunter. The next night after I'd gone to bed, there was a commotion downstairs. And when I went down to the kitchen to ask, what is it? What's going on? Mama said, go back to bed. We'll explain in the morning. Well, the next morning I woke early before the rest of the family, and when I got up, I noticed that the low door to the attic was open. Well, I like to play in there sometimes, so I got down on all fours and crawled in. When my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw two people asleep. And the most amazing thing was, they looked so different from me. They had hair as black as coal, and their skin was the rich dark brown of the earth. Lying on quilts with folded potato sacks for pillows, there was a girl, maybe about my age, and a woman that I thought must be her mother. I was so scared that I backed out of the attic without saying a word, scarcely able to breathe. When I stood up in the hall, I backed right into Papa's arms. Shh, he said, come here. And he took my hand and led me downstairs to the kitchen. Margaret, you are 10 years old now, and you are old enough to understand what I am about to say. You know that we believe slavery is wrong. It is a cruel and horribly unjust way for anyone to live. Nobody can ever own another person. You know that as Quakers, we believe that all people are created equal in the eyes of God. But today, now, belief is not enough. It is time for action, time for us to stand up for what we know is right. Many of the slaves are trying to escape to the north, to a life they can call their own. It is our responsibility as free people to help our brothers and sisters in bondage. We can offer the slaves food and clothing and shelter on their journey. They can stay in the attic, like the girl and her mother who came to us last night, or they can stay here. He took my hand and led me to the sitting room. He pushed back the rug to show me a hidden trap door. There was a hole where you slipped in your finger to pull it up, and below was a set of stairs to a second cellar. You must keep this a secret, Margaret. I know Mama has told you not to keep secrets, but this is one that you must keep, or it could mean trouble for all of us. So that's how I met Sarah Jane. She and her mama stayed with us 2 weeks. They were the first of many slaves that we would help on their road to freedom. I went down to the cellar whenever I could, and Sarah Jane and I would talk and play. She was 10 years old, too, and she liked to cook and sew and play with dolls, just like me. She could even quilt, something I hadn't learned yet. She liked to skip and tell stories and pick flowers, just like me. She even liked pickles, just like me. But she was a slave, and her mama was a slave, and they were on the run. Sometimes when it was dark out, they'd come upstairs and get some fresh air and move around. Sarah Jane's mother would chat and laugh with my mama. I remember my mama saying, I'll bet you miss your home. And Sarah Jane's mother said, I don't have a home. I won't have a home until we are in a free land. Freedom is my home. Then Papa got a message saying packages on their way tonight. That meant it would be time for them to leave. Mama dressed them in her best dark clothes with shawls and bonnets. A carriage came up our lane, pulling a big black wagon with a casket on the back. The driver said very little except that they should get in, keep their heads down, and hope and pray they wouldn't be stopped. And if they should be stopped, they must pretend to be in mourning and begin weeping and wailing if possible. Down the road they went in that moonless night, with quick kisses and hugs and Godspeed. I cried. I cried for missing my new friend. I cried for my friend's long journey. I cried for the hard life she knew. As my papa said, it's just an accident that we are free and she is not. About 4 years later, I received a package in the mail, all the way from Windsor, Canada. When I opened the brown paper tied with string, this is what I found. For Margaret, from Sarah Jane. True friends forever. I often think about Sarah Jane. I wonder where she is now. If she married, if she had children, if she managed to stay free. And every time I have the opportunity to help another runaway along the railroad, I don't hesitate. I don't ask, should I do this? Because I know a true friend is in need. I've carried this with me for a long time. Someday I'll get around to putting it in a quilt of my own. But for now, I like to keep it close to remind me why I do this. I remember every face that has passed through our house. I remember the scared looks and the mistrusting eyes and the grateful hugs. I remember all the smiles and shy glances and tearful sighs. I can see the gnarled hands worn with work, and I remember the soft, smooth hands of the ones who had their lives ahead of them. I remember how I felt the day my friend drove away from me on her road to freedom, on her road home. And I know that the price I pay is very small compared to the price she paid. I hope and pray we won't have this discussion of slavery forever. I hope that better days await us all. But ask yourself this: if you knew someone was being treated unfairly, and you knew you could reach out and help them, would you do it? Would you risk your own comfort to help another? Could you be a true friend? Remember, anything you do to help someone on their road to freedom is valuable. Whether it is as small